Man, and I got to tell you, Tara, I get super excited. Whenever you were on Breakfast Club this week, and when you were sharing it, I just thought, wow, we gotta talk about this because, I've known you for let's see, I don't know, a couple of years at least, maybe three now. But I've known you for a while through the Freedom Club. And then what was really special was, I don't know, a couple of months ago, you joined the 8 week boot camp that I'm doing. And I was like, dude, this is going to be awesome. So we got to spend even more time together, where we went through 8 weeks, and we're talking about math and skill, discipline, and all that stuff. And when you said this at Breakfast Club this week, I just thought, man, people need to hear this because I saw a text, like I saw your, what was it? You were posting some numbers and you shared this. You were saying, hey, what has really helped your business? And part of it was the math. So I want you to talk about that. But here's what's really cool. Let me just give the backstory for Tara McCafferty, who's been a friend for a couple of years, a part of our Freedom Club, was recently in our boot camp. Hey, I told Carl I'm taking a lot of credit for that. I'm like, yeah, she's okay, we're doing it. But listen, here's what was really cool. What most people don't know is you now live in Jacksonville, Florida, but you relocated from Reno, Nevada. You didn't know anybody. And you'd been working your Thors hammer strategy, which is a strategy we talk about. It's how to build qualified agent relationships, which we know is the number one source of relationally referred leads. And you know anybody, and 67% of your closings that are scheduled are from your new connections in Florida. And here's the deal. It all started about 14 weeks ago. And so let me just tell you some of the results because I actually see your little thing. You have 14 upcoming closings in the next 10 days. You've had 25 app shares, which are people that are applying and coming in through your pipeline. You had 16 new applications. Girl, like, and you said it like Carl asked you. I remember we were on Breakfast Club. And by the way, this is a plug. If you're not on Loan Officer Breakfast Club, go to loanofficerbreakfastclub.com. It's the best way to start your morning. But you just we were talking about sharing wins, and you shared 67% of your closings that are now scheduled in your pipeline came from a brand new market, moving your family from Reno all the way to Jacksonville. I'm like, you got to tell us what you did, man. Tell us your story.
It's been quite the journey. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I relocated in February, so talk about quite a trek across the nation, dogs and kids and luggage and everything in tow. And spent some time just trying to get my feet under me.
Yeah.
But I, your boot camp popped up and I was like, I got to get some consistency in my life. And it wasn't consistency just from the move, but it was just consistent. I've been doing this for 24 years,
Yeah.
and how soon we forget to just get back to the basics. And I thought, well, what better time? I'm in a situation where I have to produce
Yeah.
and I need some closings. And so, what can I do to make that happen? Well, let's get back to those basics. I've been in Freedom Club, I think 5 years now,
Hmm.
and I have never been more laser focused and committed to my schedule as I have as of late. So that move, took place, jumped into the 8 week boot camp, got my list of qualified agents together. And then, we'll talk a little bit more about it, but, did the math. I'm like, okay, what exactly do I need to do? And here's the thing. I
Yeah.
thought I'm going to go through the 12 weeks because Carl said to go through the 12 weeks. I had never done it so consistently to be able to say, like, this works. I just saw it
Yeah.
working with other people.
Hey, and specifically, you're talking about the 12-week follow-up, which is something we walk through as well. So you've done follow-up, but not the full 12 weeks of follow-up with these agent relationships that you're building. And so
Mhm.
it's been hit and miss. So
Mhm.
you actually did it like all the
I
way
did
through.
all the way through.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, so tell me this. So you've been originating, you're not a rookie, you're a veteran, And, there's nothing like where you realize, wow, I've got to do this. Like the time is now. I've got to make this thing happen. There's no other option. And so talk about your journey. Talk a little bit about like we get in the boot camp. What are some of the things you begin to implement? Because these results are remarkable as far as like even how fast 14 weeks you can transform your business.
Mhm. Absolutely.
We think
Absolutely.
it's years. It's not years. It
Mm-mm.
can be weeks and months.
Well, and I love how you go through the math of how quick do you want it. So taking that
Mhm.
fast action plan
Yeah.
and, in 90 days, do I want to close 4 deals? Do I want to close 10? And I was like, I got to be at 8 to 10 deals. So what does that look like in math? And I had to just really dumb it down to, okay, these are the numbers. I hear the numbers work. I'm going to do it and I'm going to track my numbers. And I'll be darned if like the numbers are the numbers, the conversions are the conversions. And really, I mean, it was so eye-opening for me just to see those results, and what a great
Mhm.
reminder.
Mhm. Hey, and you know what it is too, Tara? Like, and here's where it's almost like you're saying there's no way these can be the numbers. Now you may have a week that's an anomaly where it's like, you flip a quarter 10 times and it's head 9 out of 10 times. But when you track it over 30, 60, 90 days, it's shocking how that when you make X number of calls, you'll have X number of talk tos, it'll turn into X number of appointments, which will have so many people show up. And if you literally ask for the business and do a 12-week follow-up, you'll get X number of agents actively referring you business. And it's now, you know what I found? Used to, I was in this high anxiety state all the time. And it was like, here's the biggest question I would ask. Did I do enough? How do I know I did enough? Will it get me there? Like in what we've learned is that when you know the math, all the anxiety goes away because if you'll do it long enough, the results are there. How do we know? Thousands of people we've tracked. And
I
that's what's
agree.
amazing. It's like math removes anxiety.
Right, right. Well, and the thing is, like, I am admittedly a workaholic. I will
Yeah.
work so many hours. And so while I've been putting in a lot of hours, I see the light at the end of the tunnel that like this is going to convert the way I want it to convert.
Yeah.
And I'm going to know at the end of my work day that I can, like you said, if I do those numbers, then I can
Yeah.
call it a day.
Yeah.
I can spend time with my family and do the things that I want to do outside of work.
Hey, tell me what are your numbers? Share it with us. Like I think it'd be eye-opening to hear what's your target on your numbers. So when you did, and I created something a couple years ago called the Fast Action 90-day plan. And what I did was I literally took the math of the numbers and said, okay, if I want to close an additional 6 units a month or 10 units a month or 20 units a month, how many outbound calls, how many new qualified agent relationships do I need to make? Now, and hear this, everybody, because Tara, I think this is an aha too. You had to build new relationships because you're in a totally different market, brand new market. But for a lot of our listeners and a lot of people, you don't have to start. It's not, I don't want people to hear it's a bunch of cold calls, it's activity.
Mhm.
And most of you have been in the business long enough to where all you've got to do is look at who you've worked with in the last 3 to 5 years, get that list, see who's qualified, and every Monday make a plan to call that list with a very clear here's what I'm going to say, here's how I have a call to action, and do it consistently. And that's something that I think most people wake up and they're like, what am I going to do? But when you got a plan, you just like, I know the math. The
Mhm.
skill is the discipline of showing, it's kind of like, am I showing up? Is my calendar keeping me accountable? Do I have a cool group of people that's cheering me on whenever it gets tough? And so that's the power. That fast action 90-day plan just says, this is what it takes. And all I've got to do is execute this every single day, this every single week. And over the next 12 to 18 weeks, you will literally see your business begin to transform.
Mhm.
So tell me your numbers. What were yours?
Yep. Yeah, so I have to make at least 90 new real estate agent calls. So Thor's Hammer calls every Monday. and that takes, a couple of hours of committed time. But
Yeah.
so those are just trying to set an appointment to have a short conversation with
Mm.
a qualified real estate agent.
And over the last 14 weeks, walk me back to when you first started, because look, you're a veteran, but I bet there was some call reluctance, and you're sitting there, I can hear somebody saying, wow, 90 outbound calls every single Monday. But then I can also hear others saying, I'll do whatever it takes. And
Mhm.
you got to a
Mhm.
point where it's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And
Mhm.
what's crazy is 90 outbound calls on Monday, 14 closings in the next 10 days. It's a little bit of pain, but I'll take that reward all day long.
Right.
Talk me through your like, how did you do it? How'd you get better at it? What was your experience in doing it?
Yeah. So I mean, something that stood out to me was just remembering that, the number of people that will say no
Yeah.
is about 86%. So I always remember the illustration of, just standing in a room and 16 people raising their hand and saying yes, while or in 84% or something like that,
Yeah.
saying no. And so I really struggled for a long time with that rejection. But when you just remember, like, I just want to talk to those 16 that want to talk to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And then only a small percentage of those are going to do business with me. It's the math.
Hmm.
So it now I'm like, tell me no in week two. Perfect. I don't have to call you for 10 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, let me cycle somebody new into my call list. And it's just the way to get over the call reluctance is to practice the calls,
Mm.
and then to see some success. As soon as you really start to see, I've got my first closing coming on Friday, 10 days early from my first one of my first post coffee calls.
Wow.
And um I mean, it was a Zoom call. I don't even meet with them in person
Yeah.
because, with no shows and all those things.
You ain't got time for it. Yeah.
Mm-mm,
There's not a, I mean,
mm-mm,
and listen, there's a better way. And that's something we talk about. It goes back to, how do I get the most done in the least amount of time?
mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yep.
Hey, one thing, let me do this for those of you who are listening on. Carl and I did an episode on episode 362. It was called There's No Bears in Loans. And if you're listening, finish this episode, but then go back and look. It's probably about 5 or 6 episodes back, 362. We talk about There's No Bears in Loans. And Terry, you know what it is? I think, and that's why it's so important. Like even these boot camps, it's these short spurts of time where we know what to do, but I've committed and resolved to be in a small group of people to get over some of these fears and anxieties. And what's happened is, that's why we talk about the whole foundation of my boot camp is math, skill, discipline, and the last one is intentionally belief. Because when you walk in, all you have to believe is it's possible. But then, what's been cool, Tara, is that as you've been moving through these last 14 weeks, your possible has turned into, oh my gosh, it becomes this resolved belief where it's like, it works. It works. And that's where your business transforms, because I mean, even to hear you say that, where it's like there's only 16%. If I call 100 people and I talk to 100 people, 16% are going to be yeses, and a smaller percentage of that are going to work with me consistent. And it's like when you understand it, they're not rejecting you, it's the offer, but it's getting past the fear of prospecting. Because you know what we thought prospecting in sales was? Something dirty, something not, it's not cool. It's something that, man, there's a lot of rejection in it. But what we realize is it's for me to find people with similar vision, values, and beliefs.
Mhm,
Every agent in America has got to have a loan officer to close a loan with a mortgage.
mhm.
Why wouldn't it be me?
Right.
Like we're not trying to sell them something that, not ice to Eskimos. Like we're being a solution to what they have to make a living.
Mhm.
It's a
Right.
big perspective change.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And the consistency just speaks volumes to them. I'm still, after 24 years, I'm dumbfounded at like, oh, you like you want your buyer like I met you on Zoom for coffee and here's a buyer that goes into a contract within a week,
Yeah.
they want
Yeah.
to make an offer today. Um, it's mind blowing if you're just it's like panning for gold. I mean,
Yeah.
you're just really like looking for those needles in the haystack and they're there. They're really there.
Hey, what a great perspective. It goes back to you'll find what you're looking for. And when you just said
Mhm.
panning for gold, I thought about this. There's two perspectives. When you're panning for gold, you can say, man, that's a lot of rock. Or you can say, there's a gold nugget, a little bitty one right there. And so you find what you're looking for,
Right.
and what a cool perspective. Okay, do this. Somebody talk to us. Somebody has felt discouraged. Somebody has felt like, man, my back's against a wall. I've got to do it. I've got no option, no plan B. What would you say to them? How do they, maybe they're doing one, two, three, four loans a month. Maybe they're doing five and they're just saying, I got to break through where I'm currently at. What would you say? How could you help them?
That was you just described me.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, it started with renewing my mind, getting with the
Mm,
right group of people,
mm,
jumping on Loan Officer Breakfast Club, being on Call Stars. I have post-it notes above my desk. Things, a lot of them came from boot camp, but I am worthy. I am disciplined, and make more offers and all of these things. So it starts with really getting in the positive and getting around people who are doing the activity. And at the end of the day, it was like, I see people and I'm like, okay, why not me?
mm.
And I have an obligation and a responsibility to my family, and I can't for one more minute blame it on the market because I see people that are doing it in
Yeah.
this market and they're
Yeah.
growing and they're thriving. So
Yeah.
what do I need to do for that to be me? And so just getting around those people and then staying very consistent. And I will say I was never one to really track, but tracking the results has helped me to really see. It's like taking progress pictures when you're going to the gym or eating healthy or whatever it is. It's like sometimes you can't feel it on the daily or the weekly, but over time you can see those results just by tracking those numbers. And to get back to the numbers, like my realtor calls are about 90 calls a week. My overall calls, I try and I track every call now, and I try and be somewhere around 200 to 225 outbound sales calls a week. That's my database, that's leads, that's
Mhm.
it's important to me that I hit that 200 now. And it's transformed my business in such a short period of time.
Mhm. Yeah, it's isn't that amazing? It goes back to what Carl always says, offers minus no's equals money.
Mhm.
And for I think it's so important to understand that this is a volume game. And that's why we teach things like touch the lead, touch the partner. We talk about what we're doing on Monday and Tuesday, just ask. I mean, think about your Tuesday at 14 loans in the pipeline, 14 times six, because that's who all we're touching on every transaction. You get the chance to make 84 outbound calls just on Tuesday alone. And every one of those calls has a purpose. I just had Jared Manley on, think a last episode. And one of the things that changed his life, Tara, his business is exploding. And it was as he was making the calls, he started implementing. This is the number one thing he wanted to get out of the boot camp was I want to ask for the business on every call. And whether it's title, whether it's insurance, whether it's a buyer, whether it's a listing agent, buyer's agent. And what I think about is you're simply seeing this exponential results because number one, you were brave enough to take action. Number two, you got into a community to do it. And as you learn the math, now it's just, it's kind of like going to the gym. If I know how many times I got to bench press, either I'm going to do it or I'm not. And as you understand it, it starts really all these dots are connecting. You're making over 200 outbound calls a week and asking for the business. You can't help but put 14 loans that are, I mean, 14 in 10 days. Pretty good, girl. Where are
And
we going? Like this will be nothing to get to 25, 30, 40 loans a month, man.
that's the interesting thing is I was like, I just got to get to 8 to 10. And my processor, who is amazing, said, hey, we're gonna hit 10. And I'm like, how do
What?
we get to like it's 15 to 20? Like my vision has gone like so much bigger. I'm like, we're gonna sit there for a second and then onward and upward because the activity is it's like, oh my gosh, I come in yesterday and I've got two new contracts, just from the weekend. i
Mhm.
i will say this, going back to the numbers, I did the math because I actually did a speaking engagement yesterday. So I did the math from January through August. I had closed 10.4 million in volume.
Okay.
My active pipeline over the next 30 days right now is 5.49.
Wow. M-
That's
More than
exponential.
half. Yeah. Yeah.
That I
That's
closed in 8 months.
mm, that, and then it'll change your life. It'll change your
Mhm,
life.
mhm.
Um, wow. I'm so proud of you, man. High fiving. If you're not watching this on YouTube or man, Tara, you are such a giving and caring. I never forget when we did dinner with your husband in Philadelphia. That was, I don't know what, 3 years ago. You remember that with Carl?
Yeah.
And the I'm just so it's so cool to see the results you're getting. And what a relief because for you, what a difference it makes in your family's life. And that's your whole
Absolutely.
why. And I know that, and
Mhm,
so to do more than half of what you've done in 8 months in the next 30 days, the sky's the limit,
mhm,
and now you've unlocked the keys to what success is. And it's not really that hard. It's just, do I know what to do? And am I
mhm,
going to show up every day? And if
mhm,
I need some help, jump into something like a boot camp or some accountability or the call stars that'll help me whenever I feel discouraged. But see, what's really cool at 14 weeks? Now you're leading and the results are driving you.
mhm.
You lean less and less on, I need somebody to hold my hand, and more on, I got it. Now I just got to show up. So,
Right, right. Well,
wow.
and that leads into like the next thing. Someone said
Yeah,
yesterday, oh, I got some holes in my process. You know what? Like Carl says, we'll just fix those as they come.
that's it.
You just got to get the business in and figure out where it's broken, then you fix it and you move on.
That's right. Yeah, we tend to try to make it perfect versus look, the name of the game is sales. You get a sales machine running, yes, you're going to have holes. When you go from 14 to 20, yes, you're going to have some drop balls, but guess what? When you got stuff closing, you can hire a who that'll start filling in those gaps. You don't stop running because there's holes. You fix them as you're running because now you've got revenue to put in your pocket, some in your business, and you just keep running. And you've got the man, I think about it. You got a printing press, and that printing press all starts with, am I making enough outbound calls?
Mhm,
And the more you're doing, the less they're cold calls and the more they're warm calls. Like I think about the Just Ask Tuesday update. They're mad if you don't call. So it's not even that many people. It's just about taking decisive action. So Tara, hey, give us some closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. Like honestly, I this has been such a journey for me, as you know, Steve, and for my family. And so, I mean, if you knew everything that I have been through in the last 2 years, and then to have the weight of the market change on top of that,
Hmm.
it's truly, truly, if I can do it, like I'm just somebody who picked up the ball and ran with it. And like I said, my family depends on me, and you know what? I'm worthy of the success. And so be consistent, call the right people. It's not just about picking up the phone and calling 100 real estate agents, it's calling the right ones.
Yeah.
And so and there's a tremendous amount of success in just making sure at the end of the day you've done your sales activities, because that's what we're here for, like you
Hmm.
said. if you haven't done those, you can push files around all day long. And I did that for a long time. But if you're not doing the sales activities, you're not going to move the needle in your business.
I love it. Hey, well, thank you for being here. You're such an inspiration and such a gift to this industry. Every way, there are people in life that are culture breakers and culture makers, and you're a culture maker. You're someone that inspire others to play big, and the courage that you've had to walk through over the last couple of years, the decisions you've made to say I'm going to do what it takes is why you're seeing the success you're seeing. And so my hat's off to you. I'm grateful to be on the journey with you and honored to call you friend. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your support. Plug in for your boot camp and everything that you and Carl and the team are doing with Freedom Club. It's just amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, what a great episode. The thing that I love about Tara is just showing up and doing the work. And what I want to encourage you is if this podcast resonated with you, man, a great place to start would be the 8-week boot camp. There is something about leaning in to a small group over a short period of time that is designed to help you understand the math and get rid of the anxiety, learn the skill to overcome call reluctance, what to say, who to say, when to say it, how to build a strategic, livable calendar so that you can get rid of the chaos and begin to have a process to prospecting, leaning into discipline and accountability. And I know discipline's a word people like, I don't want discipline. It's really accountability. The core characteristic of accountability and being able to be disciplined in your life is routine. And so we'll show you how to lean into a group, who to call, what to say. And then over the 8 weeks, you'll be amazed to see that a belief of it's possible to, wow, I can do this and see even bigger results is something that you'll see in your business. Go to loanofficersuccess.com, loanofficersuccess.com. I'd love to be a part of your story. Fill out a couple of pieces of information and I'll give you, I'll follow up with you and see if the boot camp's a good fit. I've only got a couple of spots left for this next one that's happening here shortly, like in the next week or so. So if that's you and you're saying, I want to take massive action because I know I can do it, but I've got to get going, go to loanofficersuccess.com, fill out a couple pieces of information, and myself or Jennifer will reach out to you. Talk to you soon. See ya.